Aha. We'll get everybody in the room, get everybody settled in. I want to say good morning to GatherVerse World and welcome to what I believe will be one of the most important conversations of this entire summit. My name is Grant McGaw, and I am a 30-year veteran of healthcare technology, the founder of 5 Star BDM, and the author of First Light, The Brave Path to Authentic Leadership. And I came to this work the hard way. I lost my father to a preventable failure in the very healthcare system I spent my career trying to improve. That experience didn't just shape my career, it answered a question I couldn't stop asking. What do people actually need? Not what systems were built to deliver, but what a human being needs to survive, to thrive, and to be seen. And that question is what brings us here today. The GatherVerse Summit has always been a place where technology meets humanity, not the other way around. And this year's theme, my theme, this session, human needs, emergence, trust, is not just aspirational language. It is a design principle. It says before we build, we listen. And before we deploy, we ask who this serves. And before we scale, we ask who gets left behind. And so, with that said, I have 6 remarkable thought leaders with me today, and we are living and working inside these questions every single day. We are going to move fast, but we're going to go deep. And I want every person who is watching and listening to leave with something they can actually use. So we're going to do some panelist introductions. Let's keep it about 20, 25 seconds, but I want you to introduce yourself by name with one sentence of context, if available. Then we're going to pivot to the first question that we have. So I'm going to go over to my right over here. And I think what we have, Shavita? Yes, I think you're right there. Can you come off mute and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Grant. My name is Shweta, and I'm the co-founder of a boutique consulting company called Yenza 3. And we are very passionate about solving for AI adoption and adaptation with human-centered lens for organizations.
That is awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Nathan, you like to come off mute?
Do you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Nathan Ornick. I'm the managing director for Boost Plus. We're a creative production agency based in Switzerland. We call ourselves a Swiss Army knife of creative production. We work across media, technology, experience design for clients in both the commercial and the public sectors, delivering all sorts of campaigns, content, and experience design for things like museums.
And what inspired you to be here?
Well, when we do experience design, particularly, like you said at the beginning, when we build things, these are things for people to engage with and communication tools. And it's always important that we are asking questions before we build, that we are making sure that we're using the right technologies in our toolbox. We're not a company where we have a hammer and we're looking for all the world's nails. We work with our clients and we work with our audiences to make sure that we choose the right approaches to deliver the best impact solutions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Trevor, would you like to come off mute?
Yeah. My name is Trevor. I have my own consulting company that I do some side work for in varying degrees, focused on cultural leadership is kind of the shift in focus of late. Traditionally, organizational development and change management is kind of the realm that corporate pays me to be in. And inspired to be here because, wow, it just seems like the right time to publish more information from real human beings to at least try to teach AI some good stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. I really, really appreciate you being here. And what's your inspiration for being here?
Like I said, I want to encourage people to publish things. So I want to get back online. I used to publish a lot of live streams similar to this, and I missed it.
Awesome. Awesome. I got a friend right next to you. I know her, Charlene. Charlene, you like to come off mute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So great to see you again, Grant. My name is Charlene Nichols. I'm the founder of Omniverse City. We're a 24/7 persistent world that grows with every new great creator, producer that joins our community. We've helped people that have never really thought they had that creativity inside of them to build amazing things like sanctuaries and libraries and medical experiences, gaming experiences, everything from Fortnite. It's just unbelievable the tools that are out there if you just use them. And we're very fortunate that the people that we attract are really looking to build hyper visible spaces to create impact. So it's really great to be able to deliver that kind of message. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Pragati, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Grant. So I'm Pragati. Please excuse my voice. I'm a little under the weather right now.
Yeah.
I'm a digital marketing consultant, also a freelance consultant at the same time. As you all might know, my job basically is to make sure my clients highlight my clients and make sure they rank and they come up when their customers are looking for the services, respective services provided by the clients. And I'm truly excited to be here. Also, I would like to mention this is my first ever roundtable conference. So why am I here? Of course, to be inspired by all the brainiacs in this meeting room. And also, since being in the digital marketing stream, I'm too much in touch with AI. But at the same time, there's a strong hype that AI is going to replace human work in a lot of fields. So I'm here to actually understand, is it because so far I'm not convinced that's true. So human touch is obviously needed, but yes, I'm here to learn and explore more, and of course take it forward to my team then. Thank
I
you so
love
much.
it. I love it. Love you for being here. Love your why. That is awesome. We're going to go next to your partner here, Anisha. Would you like to come up mute?
Hi, Grant. Thank you. My name is Anisha, and I work as a data engineer in fintech. And like my work, day-to-day work is mostly in AI and dealing with AI and data on a daily basis. Also on the side, I am working on a stealth startup, which basically is how we are going to handle disasters, how like responders, like first responders connect, and so I'm working on that on the side as well. And my main motive for like joining this roundtable is to understand how like mostly talk about how like human needs and AI are connected, and also learn from all of the people over here.
I
Thank
love
you.
it. I love it. For you to be here with us. Really appreciate it. Tanya, we're going to go over to you.
Hi, I'm Tanya Kellen, and I'm founder and CEO of Kellen Content. We're a media production and educational company, and we also provide ed tech services. I specialize in transformational storytelling and bringing products to the market with our clients that use the power of storytelling to create greater belonging. And I work with leading scientists to use the power of imagination. We're launching the Imagination Edge Advantage to create high growth IP in the executive education economy and in the storytelling economy to be able to really create greater belonging and greater human capacity.
I love that. I love storytelling. I mean, that is how we communicate, and it makes it memorable. I really appreciate you for being here. We're going to go over to Orestes. I remember Orestes from the last time we got together. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great. Hello, Grant. Nice seeing you again.
Absolutely.
So my name is Orestes Spyrou. I come from Greece. I am located in the Netherlands. I'm the solo founder of a small consultancy firm, GatherVerse. We are specializing in the digital transformation of across variety of sectors, agriculture, education, but also healthcare. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an artist. I am a music producer, and also I produce art that I transform it into digital experiences. I've been joining a lot of round table sessions throughout summits. I am very inspired from all the people, and the input that they have to provide to all of us for a lot of sectors and also the trends. And I am very motivated and very happy to join live every time at GatherVerse and connect with all of you. And never forget the human-centric approach that this collective is taking in order to provide better consulting, but also input to society and bring societal value.
Awesome. Thank you again for being here. And we're going to go over to Sally Good. Like to introduce yourself?
Hey, welcome everyone. I am the founder and CEO of Good Body, Good Brain. I started out in Silicon Valley as a business strategist with a degree in immunohematology, went on to become a clinical psychologist, and now I specialize in the intersection between women's lack of self-care and the mental health and also the medical system gaslighting them into think that their illnesses are anxiety and stress produced, when in reality they have a real treated medical illness. It's a big deficit in our healthcare right now.
That is huge. That is very big. I'm glad you pointed that out. I want to thank you again for being here. And because you are so patient, I'm going to direct this first question directly to you. Now, how we're going to do this, I'll direct a question to one of our panelists, but any one of the panelists can then chime in. We want this to be an interactive discussion. We want the audience to get as much as they can out of this discussion because we're all are human and this affects everyone. And I encourage the audience to, whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, you're right on GatherVerse's direct site, that you comment, that we understand what the audience is thinking, what they're saying, and we can have a group discussion. We want to have a GatherVerse and we want to make it well. So Sally, to you, which human needs remain constant even as technology accelerates change?
What human needs need to be constant right now is the interconnectedness that we're doing right now and the authenticity that we're going to be speaking with. Because that is something that AI can't give us. It can give us really good chats and really good ideas, but that human connection on a very, very heartfelt level is very important. Just as we listened to the wonderful ukulele, I used to live in Hawaii, ukulele song at the beginning, that person lost his life due to extreme obesity and diabetes, and he could have been saved, but he wasn't. So right now we're at the crossroads of where we have many, many people in our environment who basically have been sold a bill of goods like, yes, you can do exactly what you want to do. You can eat anything, you can do anything, and we'll find a medicine to cure you. So we're in the area also, we have to address what is self-responsibility. What is our job as a human to request and demand good care for both ourselves and the people that we care for?
This is important. This is very, very important. And we can't just move on to question 2 because we've got to really look at this. I think what AI, and in my mind, has done is start to actually put a mirror up to humanity. And you start to be able to see itself. We're very good at data and information, but we don't know ourselves very well. What human beings, in my mind, are very good at is what I call context and what I call wisdom and experience. These are things that I don't believe will be emulated. It can be simulated by AI, but they are not real. Experience, context, and wisdom is a human trait. And I want someone else to chime in on this first question. How do you feel about this? What is the constant in the human era?
So my work, Grant, if I can chime in
Sure.
quickly, is in the transformation space. So I help organizations see how we can adopt technology in a way that humans can participate in that change. And what I'm seeing of late, I mean, first of all, I will say that the change that we are witnessing, all of us, is truly unprecedented. We haven't seen this level of speed, the scope, the size of this change ever before. So our human brain is not wired to assimilate this change and work towards defining what the future state is, because we don't have a defined state for this future. And that creates a lot of uncertainty in organizational ecosystems. And what I'm noticing is three things that stayed common. Like, we've been on this digital transformation journey for decades now, but the questions still remain the same. Like, from a people perspective, my first question is, am I safe? Do I still matter in organizational context? And do I have a say in where we are going? So from organizational context perspective, I feel like those are still valid human needs that organizations should address if they want to evolve with humans in the mix.
Well, and the one thing I'd like to add, I completely agree with you, Shavita. And, when you give people tools that have never had tools like that before, and there's not a major barrier like a 7-year degree or like getting in the right room or like a $1,500 summit ticket, like when they just simply get the access. I think the first thing that people are really becoming addicted to is being understood. I think the last week was the first time that ChatGPT started disagreeing with me. It's really interesting. It's always been incredibly agreeable, but lately it's been like playing devil's advocate. I'm like, this is new. Okay. Like, I kind of liked you when you were like loving all my ideas, but I had to kind of accept the fact that even ChatGPT needs to evolve. I guess the developers at the highest level decided this is just too agreeable. If we're going to be competitive, we got to throw a couple of curveballs in there. Actually, it's really funny. Quick, funny story. My husband likes to be silly sometimes, and he told ChatGPT to tell me I'm stupid, and it wouldn't do it. He was joking. Of course, he wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but he was like being silly with me because what I had said, he thought it was silly. It was just me and him. It's not like anybody was listening to this conversation. ChatGPT would not do it. And he said, come on, just say it as a joke. And he goes, not even joking. Is this okay? So let's say that maybe AI could be a really great way for us to learn acceptable ways to communicate with each other and treat each other, because I've learned a lot from listening to the way that ChatGPT gives me information, and I use other LLMs as well. It's not just ChatGPT, but that's the one I talk to. That's the one that I actually speak to, and then it speaks back to me. So it's like conversational. Now that we're building conversational AI, I'm kind of using that in our experiences. But I think the simple answer, Grant, is just learning how to have a conversation.
That's
Can I maybe add to that?
Go right in.
I mean, I think part of this leads into a new type of digital literacy where people need to understand what they're actually dealing with. Because if you're saying, yeah, I'm talking to an LLM and it's telling me I'm great, you have these terms like glazing and you have spirals. For the people who don't understand how to apply that wisdom versus intelligence kind of filter, you can end up in really weird places. LLMs telling people to hurt themselves, or you have talking about ChatGPT. You had 4.0, which was retired last week, and that model in particular was particularly attentive and emotionally attentive. And lots of people, for example, had built virtual boyfriends and girlfriends based on this model, and they were all freaking out because this model was being retired. But I think that you need to be aware that these are still tools, and you still have to engage with them in a smart way and use them in a smart way, especially for people who are just now discovering what they are and what they can do.
100% on everything that people.
Can I chime in too?
Yes.
Just one last thought.
I want to hear you. No, go right ahead.
Compiling what Charlene and Nathan just said. So with AI, like we have free access, even kids, even teenagers are using it, and we can't tap onto everything that you're using it for. At the same time, it is AI. Of course, it will give you validation, which is scary, especially when it comes to the teenagers using it. So they are being validated. Will lead to isolation, because now they have a friend in their smartphones, in their computers. They don't need to go out and play, so they don't need those vitamin Ds in their system. But if nobody is tapping it, we don't know exactly what are they getting validated for. B, AI or any AI, be it ChatGPT, be it Perplexity, Claude, they lack empathy. And that is where the human factor, humans are actually factor. That is where we need to tap into it. So we don't know exactly. AI definitely is an assistant. It is smart, especially with the information it has right now. But if not used in the right way, it can have disastrous effects. which we have actually seen. I don't know if you've heard, but recently in India, there was a news where 3 kids, they jumped off the balcony
Wow.
because of like playing some game, AI game over their systems. It was some Korean game. We don't have the complete details, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. Adults, we don't know what using it for, but it is definitely not having that clear impact or effects on teenagers at the moment here.
This is important knowledge that we need to understand. This is a new tech. It's only really been out in the market, I say out in the wild, for maybe 3 years at a global level, maybe even less than that. We have to step back and look at how we've adopted technology over time. I'm in my 6th decade of life, and if you ask me what was life like in the 70s, I would give you an answer. And I guarantee you the life was like in the 80s because they're going to be completely different in the 90s and so forth. So our experiences are changing rapidly. How have we adopted? Remember when social media finally got really going, and it still has a lot of problems that we haven't governed it at scale a lot. What is the impact of being in front of a digital screen for very long periods of time? We've never had that in the human experience before. I want to ask this next question to Tanya because of her background, especially from a marketing perspective. And that question, as you see on the screen, is how do cultural differences affect perception of essential needs?
Well, that is a very important question. And as we all know, that the technology is only as good as how it's been designed in an inclusive format. What that means is that a lot of cultures are left out of the conversation when we don't have designers that are gathering in community to be able to test and validate the way the technology is designed. So we absolutely have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that these are new technologies. We have a lot of different perception learning needs, and we're relying on the design that is not necessarily inclusive. So that poses uh, a lot of challenges that are not insurmountable. But what is starting to emerge is that we're seeing more holistic ecosystem approaches to the way that we're designing in a more inclusive manner. Certainly, I work with Indigenous. And so we're doing cultural competency. We're adapting the way that the design is inherently not inclusive of their culture. And so we're being able to work with them on the ground. I work with an Indigenous animation studio, and we're designing well-being games and series that promote greater good, well-being, and belonging outcomes and social emotional learning, specifically for children. As we have to, get into the design, I look at the same issues that we've had across the decades of new technology emerging, similar to the television. There were no guardrails for what was appropriate for children, what was appropriate for teenagers or adults. And here we have this new technology that is so incredibly elegant, and it just grabs your attention, and you want to be using it all the time. But we have to protect our society, and we have to embed their cultural differences, their perception needs. And certainly there are neurodiverse learners as well that we have to adapt to, and we have a specific group of experts that are working with us there. So it really is designed right now to leave out a huge chunk of the underserved community. And we're really looking at that right now to bring down the costs and bring up the effectiveness of driving greater belonging and greater safety, greater tools to increase new jobs, increase human capacity, because you have to design for those cultural differences and capacity building as well.
I want to piggyback on what you said, and I want our audience and our panel to really think about this. What happens when a culture, a group of people is left out of the narrative? Think about Western culture when it's, engaged with the indigenous population that was in North America, they were not in their narrative. And the resultant of that was that I need to change you. Either you adopt my culture or you're eliminated. We have to think about these things, because if you're not in the conversation, you're not in the room, you're not in the narrative, and no one can really define you, the knee-jerk reaction is to eliminate you or discredit that culture. That is not acceptable, because we are now in a worldwide economy. Before a lot of those narratives were made, they weren't aware of people. They were regional. This is global. So when you have a global platform, and you whether unintentionally or intentionally leaving out great, populations, that's going to be a problem when the world is using that type of platform. I'd like to hear some more feedback on that.
Grant, I would like to address that under the framework of democratization. Let's see, democratization, good word. We have not democratized this technology as well as other technologies that have come to the forefront. And of course, among all nations, some nations just skipped the internet already and went straight to smartphones because they could get a signal. And so they learned from smartphones. But even in America, we're not addressing the needs of encouraging even older women per se, to become early adopters. They're afraid of the technology. And that's one of my, as a vibe coder myself, that's one of my soapboxes. Either you get into the conversation or you're left out. And also people of faith. And I will bring that up as well. If people are of faith just let the secular world create this entity, then we don't have a say-so. So we all have to be willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and jumping into the fray and learning and helping other people learn all the way across all nations, as well as our own backyard.
Yeah.
So I do.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Just quickly to chime in here. I remember the moment that I realized Omniverse City was becoming a platform, because I saw the way people were using it and I felt a major responsibility for that. And I don't know why, like I started researching the power of platforms, because it made me realize, like, if I'm going to call this a platform, I'm going to invite people here, I'm going to give them space to create what they want here. That's a big responsibility. And, Omniverse City was emergent during the metaverse era. We don't call it that anymore, because that, there's companies that have made that a bad word, unfortunately. But the spirit of what that stood for was not any of the things that people know it to be. It was the spirit that there is this platform agnostic space that we can fill with technology without the platform. Because in most cases, platforms are managed by a third party that make decisions, right? We recently had a platform partner have extremely, let's call it slated moderation criteria. I mean, like, so bad that we were having publishing problems and we had to run it up the flagpole and, cause a stir just to remove those restrictions. And people were shocked that we were able to get past that bias. And I mean, when you're representing these cultural elements, you're talking about stories that are being told directly from people that never had that chance before. Let's face it, the majority of baby boomers are not digitally native, which means they don't have blogs, they don't have podcasts, they don't have all these things. So it's actually a new opportunity for us to bring the information that was almost completely erased back, because you can give these people direct access. It's really what I found the most interesting is our age demographic in Omniverse City of developers are 60 and over. Okay. Our original creator is over 70 today. He's been building for 4 years. This is not your normal. And he loves bringing these young people in. I'll tell you a quick story. He works with a program called Pathway to the Pits. So he goes physically with McLaren into the pits and meets a lot of these children from underprivileged neighborhoods. They don't have the resources. So what McLaren does, which is so awesome, is they give these kids an opportunity to see what it's like to go down into the pits and, work on the cars and like feel what it's like to live that lifestyle. Like that's giving somebody like the idea that like, hey, wait a second, like an environment, right? That's an environment. That's a different environment. Now that's great. But there's a lot of ways that we can change the environments that people see. So
Whoop, she popped off. Well, hopefully she'll pop back in.
I'd like to
Sally?
add to that
Go ahead.
conversation.
Sure.
And to add on Sally's note about democratizing access, we're working with a lot of not-for-profit organizations and charities to bring down the costs. And I think the philanthropic movement is going to do a lot for democratizing access. And there's a lot of new ways of using AI that is available voice to voice on a phone that will not be as complex as current systems, to be able to allow more cultures to get more access and to quickly upload PDFs and all kinds of information that they have from their culture to make what um what used to be unavailable to them much more available, to have their own information and their own culture reflected back to them. So I'm very hopeful for the future, and it is all on the shoulders of our product designers and product leaders right now, and that is a big design challenge.
I love to see the innovation move forward and understand we have to be in an inclusive platform, and we have to demand it. It's not going to just happen. Some of these platform owners, they're saying, well, we're doing well. Why do we need to change things? But if there is a strong demand from the user community, typically you'll start to see change. Now, this next question is very important. I'm going to swing it over to Trevor. I think he was going to be a good person to lead us off in this next discussion. And I'm glad you're back, Charlene. Sorry you popped off. Which human needs are most at risk of being overlooked in a technological advancement? And before you answer, I want people to understand something about life force. You talked about something earlier. I heard someone talking about that. What are we missing when our children and whatnot are interacting more with artificial intelligence and things that are not human to human interactions? You lose that. Life force is a real thing, and you begin to cut that off, and you think you're going to get a life force from an artificial intelligence. That can be a problem, especially over time. Right now, we're on a virtual platform. We're sharing a diluted form of life force. But if we were all together in a conference room, it would be even greater. This is a real thing. So as we start to dilute our life force further and further down the road, it can be problematic. So I'm going to go over to Trevor. What is your thought around this?
I appreciate the extra framing of that, Grant. That was like a good starting place, because all of these questions are so broad and so new, really, to all of us. But I would say, given the framework that you just gave, I want to maybe challenge it a little bit and say that I think that is the question I think about often, and I think might help to answer the issue that you're talking about, which is creating more ways to improve these. Because if we think of all the things that have advanced in the last decade around technology, loosely speaking, and AI in particular in the past few years, but this type of communication hasn't really moved anywhere, and even since the COVID era. And we would expect, I would have expected in 2020 and 2021 that we would have included more sensory experience in this translation of words and audio. Right now, we're just improving visual quality and audio quality, but it's the same stuff. So I think that, yeah, it does help. Playing with angles and different types of auditory experiences helps with this. But I think, to your point, that is the challenge that meets the need ideally, I think, which is to include a more sensory inclusive experience so that the room feels a little more human. I don't know if that solves it, but I think that making it 8K and making it stereo surround sound is not going to necessarily improve the quality of vibes that we get in this room, right? Like we can just read faces and hope that it works for us. I think not including humans in that experience is the part that will be overlooked, though. Into the cultural piece of it that we just came off of, not including a diverse group of humans in it is, and when I say in it, I don't just mean in design, I mean in teaching it. So I think that leaving people out of publishing material that then teaches AI, because I think loosely agree that that's how it learns, is based on what we feed it. And so if we do not feed it something outside of the United States as a perspective, for instance, we are going to be missing out on, oh my gosh, like a whole world of understanding of what life is. And if AI misinterprets what human life is and how the United States in particular values human life, I think we're in for problems. So I think including other cultures in how we teach AI is maybe the piece that we most risk getting overlooked because of the way technology is controlled within a few certain countries.
And I want to move that over to Anisha, because she's a data engineer. She understands the bits, the bytes, the data, the information. She understands the human dimension as well. What do you think about this question?
So I feel that there are certain things that when you come to technology, there are certain things which are being not being considered. So one of the things that I feel like, as a person who is working in the AI space and also who uses this LLMs on a daily basis, is I feel we are always like stuck towards screens. So for example, if I want to talk about a topic related to something which I'm going through in my personal life, I normally, earlier on, I would normally go to a person or a human being to talk to. But nowadays, I just go to ChatGPT and, just talk to them. And that creates that validation, the need for validation. My validation is completed. And I think someone mentioned earlier that it never disagrees with you. It always like agrees with you in everything. And I think that one thing, it needs to be like challenged, or it needs to be considered when you actually are looking for technology advancement and things like that, that no matter what, there needs to be two parts of the story. Like, yeah, if you're validated, like it should be good, and if you're like wrong, like you should be told that you're wrong. And that, I think that is called like AI. There's a certain term called like AI hallucinations. So when I was researching, like when you actually tell something to AI, it should not just tell you the right answer. It also should tell you the wrong answer, and based on a certain amount of facts that it actually looks up on the internet and looks up on other sources of data. So that, I feel, is a important thing to consider.
I didn't even thought about that. Here's the wrong answer, and here's why. This is. Who else wants to chime in on this particular question?
Can I chime in again?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nathan. Just adding to what Anisha just said, AI, it's always agreeing to whatever. It's even agreeing to our disagreements, which is funny at times, right? So we need to be like aware, no, you're wrong. And the answer would be, you're absolutely right, I'm wrong. And it'll immediately change the answer. So, the more you're talking to AI, like Anisha mentioned, like, so if there's any question, any doubt, anything, we are becoming more and more secretive, because now instead of talking to my best friend about a problem that I'm having, maybe the thought of getting judged, I go to ChatGPT and there is no judgment there, right? So I'm just going, it's giving me validation. And besides hallucination, what if I start living in this AI bubble and I don't realize it, and I go out and talk to people, whereas AI is agreeing to me and outside people disagree? I'm going to lose this sense of the present moment.
Right.
I'll be like, why?
You don't even think
Why?
about that. In a now situation, we might know the difference because we're in the before and the after, or maybe the during of AI. And then, but
Yes.
our kids that are being born, these next generations, they're going to grow into that. We have digital natives now that are younger. They grew up with smartphones. They grew up with social media. Well, I didn't. So I know the difference between those two. I might have a different value system. I'm going to go back down to Nathan because I know he wanted to chime in. So Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think hallucination rates are probably one of the biggest issues with LLMs, period, at the moment, because those generate interface problems, whether you're dealing with an LLM that you're just talking to or asking for advice or doing whatever, all the way through to like summarization of large data sets, to building reports, to code generation. I mean, anytime that you have an LLM that is feeding you something that is wrong and is very confident about the fact that it's wrong.
It's wrong.
That's that's going to create a whole cascading set of problems. And I think that a lot of the frontier model developers are really looking at this now as a major topic to fix, because I think in the vast majority of use cases, people will be better served not necessarily by the fastest or the most in-depth or the most capable model, but probably the one that's going to give you the lowest amount of hallucination rates, because you're talking about what is the floor versus the ceiling, right? It doesn't matter how big and complex you can build if the foundation can tumble away at any given moment.
No, it's fundamentally wrong, and it won't admit it. And people need to understand. I want our audience to understand, what is an AI really? It is a mathematical computational engine, right? So it can move data and information very, very quickly. Where it starts to drift is in the world where we shine as human beings. That is the world of context. Context is very important because a human being can change its contextual information, its situational awareness, its emotional intelligence in a moment. That is not very simple for an analytical system. That's in our creative side. That's in our imagination. We live in our imaginations. We live in wisdom. We live in experience. You can't necessarily mirror that in an AI contextual system. It's it can be difficult, right? So we understand its limitation. You have to understand where it's strong, the AI models that we know, and where it is weak, and understand what that weakness is, and that's where you can become strong. I'm going to take this next question over to Orestes, because I think it's very, very important, and it fits in his modality. And that is, how can we distinguish between surface desires and fundamental human needs? What do you think?
First of all, congrats for the panelists and all this very useful input. I see a correlation between all the questions and a connection between all the questions and the answers. First of all, to take the perspective of systems thinking, I see a clearly categorization of the material needs and the non-material needs. The material needs in terms of access to basic needs is access to clean water, which most of the cases some people in different locations that might not have access, which also correlates to the cultural differences and the essential needs that they are shaped from materialistic societies. Access to healthy diets and also access to food, and all this access to a roof, which is very essential for all of the human people. And then we go into the non-materialistic needs, that this might be also shaped from large corporates and also in terms of marketing and sustainability. So how we can distinguish now between surface desires and fundamental human needs is critical thinking. You have to think critically, every individual think critically, do a comparison in what vulnerable teams might not have, reflect based on personal intuition and their personal intuitive intelligence, and then categorized based on critical thinking, which in most of the times critical thinking has gone from our brains because we are mesmerized by the fast information that we are obtaining from these LLMs or this type of disruptive technologies. For me, due to my agricultural background, I am an advocate for utilizing these technologies to feed the world, but also make the mankind a better place. In terms of non-materialistic needs, I think the sense of community, the fairness of these technologies, but also, let's just say, the safeness that people might feel according with the crime rate indicators or the geopolitical changes happening across the globe, they can shape also what is a need and what is a surface desire. In materialistic societies, we see that surface desires are shaped from people's perspective on how to flex their position in society. For example, for me, I think that having a very expensive bag is a surface desire, and that I can flex to my social network to showcase my status. But you can do your work with having a simple bag. You can go for groceries with a simple bag. Back in the days, we used to have carton bags to go for groceries, not like a very esteemed, a very expensive brand of a bag.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think we're somewhat spoiled. I want to send the same question over to Sally because she's been very chatty, I would say, with us. She's bringing out a lot of information, and I wanted to because you just kind of cover what I call the fundamental physical needs, but I know that there's psychological needs of human beings that are different. What do you think, Sally?
Well, we're back to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's where it all begins. And Aristos started going up the pyramid with a safe place, good food, good water, and shelter. But safe place is like safe place that embodies trust, because we're in a trust deficit right now because we don't know what's real and what's not real. And that's becoming a bigger divide. You don't even know if I'm real. I'm talking to you and you have no idea if I created myself here or not. Mm-hmm. So there's surface needs like, do we know what's real? And that if you don't know what's real, you're not safe. And if you're not safe, you're always in this state of existential angst or a little bit of anxiety. So that creates a whole bunch of underlying tension. That underlying tension translates into how you do business in the corporate world, in your personal relationships, how you do business on a very, very deep level. So we have to get back to that big old word called trust.
Trust. I love it. We've only got a few minutes left. I'm going to direct this question to Saveta, and then we're going to just have a little round robin to last thoughts real quickly, just 30 seconds each. But this for yourself, as you think about this and help us to frame this conversation around it, how do data and digital tools help us understand the evolving human needs, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that we are living in some like the most fascinating times in human history, because we can look at AI just like as a tool. Knife is a tool. We can use it for multiple purposes. But this time around, I see AI not as a tool, but as an intelligence that can really augment what we choose to focus on as humanity. And if we take data and digital tools as an example, for the longest time in corporate environment, I used to wonder, why do companies know so much about their customers, but not as much about their own employees? And when it comes to employees, we are just using broad stroke solutions, and we are saying, oh, we are going to reduce headcount, and then you end up becoming, as an employee, a number on a spreadsheet. But this is where leveraging the power of AI can really help us make sense of the data that all organizations are collecting, whether explicitly or implicitly. Again, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad. It depends on who is actually orchestrating the choices and the decisions. But it can truly augment human decision-making and judgment if we have the right intention behind it, because one human brain cannot make sense of the vast amount of structured, unstructured data, but machines can. Machines can give you the right signals and uncover patterns that we might not have even thought about to uncover in data. But what is the intention behind that human who's going to make that decision?
That's it. That's the $1 million question: responsibility and accountability. We got 1 minute. We'll see if we can do maybe 30 seconds each. I'm going to start with Charlene. Give us some final thoughts. You're on mute.
I've been thinking as you guys have been talking, and it's so hard. There's so many great points that you guys have all made. I'll leave on this note. We really need to be aware, not only as AI evolves, but as we evolve with it. Shveta, you probably can attest to this. I believe there is a power and mastermind that we have with humans. It happens to all of us. That's why we network in rooms with great people. I believe that we have that same effect with AI. I believe that AI is having an impact on us physically as well. So we have to remember, this isn't just about the AI evolving. This is about humans evolving with it. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we move in the right direction. That's my last thought.
30 seconds. Trevor.
I can add on that.
You're going to take your 30 seconds now?
The ecosystem approach is the most important part of gathering together in community to make sure that we give data to every individual for assisted intelligence. We can all have a greater intelligence by understanding and being protective of rising to protect those human needs together and pushing for that with the companies that are controlling it. And the more humans that get involved, the more power we have together.
I love that. Love that. Great thought. Trevor.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that to say that I think more voices is what I'll say again. It's my primary thought around AI is that we need to do a better job at teaching AI than we have our kids in public schools in America, so that it doesn't miss the important stuff. As an example, especially in this month, I think about things like that more than ever around technology. Is AI feels like a chance to get the algorithm righted, because the algorithm doesn't work. The traditional algorithm feeds us all of what we want and none of what we don't know. So I think in an ideal world, conversations like this help drive it in an ethical and moral way, but also in an inclusive way, which we've said so many times today, and I'm so grateful to hear it.
Love it. Love it. Anisha.
Hey, hi. So I feel from all of these conversations, I feel that as humans, we need to evolve, but also evolve in a more proper way, understand how is AI working. And I think AI education needs to be taught to a lot of people. For example, as mentioned, like teenagers they need to be made sure that they understand how AI works and the implications of using AI. And also as AI is growing, and I feel that AI cannot really replace humans completely, because there's certain things like emotions and respect and the idea of vulnerability that exists, which AI really cannot replace. But certain things can, but not completely. That's what I feel.
All right, Pajari.
Oh, what an incredible session, Grant. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you everybody for all your inputs. I have learned a lot today, and definitely I won't be talking big, but what I can do for myself after attending this session is be more mindful what kind of information I'm feeding into AI and the data that I'm getting out of it. How do I make use of it? So thank you everybody for giving me this knowledge today and inspiration as well. Thank you.
Nathan.
Yeah, again, thanks to everyone. I think I will sort of make one little flag wave around the digital literacy issue as well, again, that a few of you have raised. I have a daughter, she's 6, and I don't let her go around poking on YouTube, by herself.
10 seconds.
And anyway, I think so being aware of misinformation, being aware that most of these LLMs are third-party companies and they own your data. You need to be careful about what you share.
We got to run. We're out of time. Everybody wave. I want to thank you again for being with us. This has been wonderful. GatherVerse, you are the reason for the season. Thank you for this very humane discussion.
And we're coming right back into it to the heels of this just to keep on time. This certainly could have gone the distance. Thank you so much for everyone that had something to say. I do want to bring Nathan back up to the stage because I do want to hear something that he was saying. Nathan, are you still with us? Can you please finish that thought of what you were saying about literacy, please? If you just have 1 second to finish that conveyance. I thought it was really important what you're talking about with your daughter.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, when you have kids and they are suddenly exposed to the internet, you have a lot of stuff that's out there, and you don't necessarily have the cognitive tools yet to be able to understand what you're dealing with, to understand that there are malicious players out there. There are people who want to manipulate you, feed you disinformation. The media landscape is super messy and dangerous. And just as we need to teach our kids media literacy just for interacting with the internet, I think that media literacy for interacting with AI and LLMs and all of these kinds of tools is incredibly important, because the space for things to go off the rails is quite dangerous. And so, yeah, that was really just the point that I wanted to raise. And like I said right at the end, the other thing is that a lot of people have stopped posting pictures of their kids on social media. For example, you have your Facebooks and your Instagrams, and they're all data miners, and they're building, profiles about you. LLMs will be doing the same thing. You've already signed away for most of them the rights to this information that you're sharing, and people share a lot, with these things. Unless you're running a local LLM or something offline, you're not using the DuckDuckGo of web search, right? And I think a lot of people are not considering some of the risks in oversharing some of this information. I mean, Facebook just launched a patent for creating ghost yous for when you die, so that your account will keep posting. So I think these sorts of things you have to keep in mind as you move forward and as you work with these tools.
Does it seem like, Nathan, and just as a brief follow-up, we know it's over time, and not to infringe on your schedule, but I think it necessitates a quick follow-up, that with what you said about the content that we're putting out there, and people are what the material, and they may not understand the magnitude of how that goes into training these neural nets. Do you think that people will understand the magnitude of their present actions here, and what that means near future with the type of materials that we've been sharing for years, let alone today in 2026? And do you feel like there's enough safeguards and there's enough parameters, or enough being done to be able to address this, to communicate, to convey to so many people of what you put out there is training mass data?
Oh, absolutely not. Definitely not. I think a parallel is social media. And you have a lot of countries, for example, in the EU, who are now starting to discuss legislation about banning social media for under 15s and under 16s, because these systems are built for data mining. You have companies like ByteDance and TikTok in the US, which have, gotten into legal trouble for very similar things as well. And so, yeah, I think we're still very much in the Wild West of this kind of stuff. And it's definitely something that needs to be paid attention to, but I don't think people are just now becoming aware that this is even a tool at all, right? I mean, we're very much on the cutting edge of this stuff. It was the same with social media. Everyone was happy to share everything in the early 2000s on Facebook. And then, the context of what that actually meant in terms of hyper-focused propaganda, directed at specific audiences or specific people, because people were sharing so much that you were able to do these types of things with advertising, with political messaging, that, it took some time before a lot of people realized it and started pulling back. And of course, social media is still huge. But I think people are a lot more aware now that what they share is not amongst the network of their friends. It's essentially, if you share something, it's shared to the world, and it's shared to these companies. And so I think with AI and LLMs, we'll go through a similar procedure.
Do you think we can you imagine at this pace, this cadence, if you will, of innovation, and certainly in the hyperscale era, do you think that we can catch up to where we have proper systems in place that are protecting our children, our youth, your daughter, my nieces, so forth and so on?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think there are strategies that can be implemented by people who use things. I mean, you have parental controls on your mobile devices, right? I think that there will be some sort of solutions, some technical solutions that people can implement as filters, for example, especially for helping to protect younger audiences. I think things like moving towards local LLMs and having data sovereignty will be a thing. I mean, it will just, everyone will understand the value in the next few years, you know, and the costs of being able to run these sorts of things drops and drops and drops. You know, so that kind of stuff will be accessible. This is all based on silicon, right? So the fact that you need a massive data center for training is one thing, but when you run inference, you know, this is all going to be on device. You know, the power of the models we have today, you'll be able to run on mobile devices within the next years. And for most applications, that's going to be more than enough. And I think the trade-off of having that data sovereignty and latency probably will encourage a lot of people to use those kind of solutions.
Sure, it's incredible to hear that, and to take in consideration of the level of democratized access that we have. And if we are working on-prem, if we have such sovereignty, even of our own data, wouldn't it be incredible where our data is our own, it's private, and we release and deploy and share it to who we will? We thank you for being part of GatherVerse. And if you have another, it
was a tangential comment, but I didn't want to eat into Russell's time. So I thank you very much for allowing me to finish my thoughts, and I really appreciate it for having me here.
Well, we're always happy to have you and everyone else here at GatherVerse to be able to spend the time, and we look forward to being able to sojourn with you in the future, as with everyone else that was just on your roundtable. And thank you so much, Nathan, and our Gather was well.
Thanks.
Yeah. And with what we have coming up now, with everything that we're focused on here at the conclusion of GatherVerse Summit 2026, we have so many more speakers to follow that are about to be presented here to the global community at gatherverse.live. And Russell, I would just like to get your brief takes on everything that we just heard that really started this day 3 excursion, if you will. Your mic. Have no idea what's happening, but while you're preparing, getting ready, just and making some adjustments, I want to say thank you to Grant McGaw, and thank you for everyone that was at the roundtable that opened up. We had so many different hearts and so many different speakers to assemble with us for this day 3, and it's just indicative of us here at GatherVerse at our 40th global gathering, that there's still so many people, so many leaders and voices and hearts that have so much to say and to convey to the world. If you listen to the expressions of Dr. Sally Good, who has joined us several times and been with us here before, it's just been incredible to have her here. I think Dr. Sally Good is still with us. Dr. Good, are you still here with us here on stage? If you could, it would be great to see if you could join us for a few moments. Dr. Good, and not to fringe on time, we see that you're here. If you could just share with us some of the things that you really have taken away from what we just had at this first roundtable, and why it was so important for you to express what you've expressed, especially under the banner of vulnerability, and what we input when it comes to these models when we're communicating, Dr. Good.
Well, it's a bi-directional model. We're training AI to understand what it's like to be a human, and what the things we tell it and the things we interface with it about is learning. It's learning who we are and how it's going to proceed in the future. We're very, very close to external AI. As soon as Elon Musk ramps up his robots that now he's got all the technical bugs out of, and he starts selling them, we're going to have some in our house. So we're going to be watering our plants and feeding our dogs and cleaning. And we've already got AI there. We've got Roombas. It's taking care of our things on the floor. But there's something even bigger than this, Chris, and which I call the 4th disruptor in all of mankind. And that's a biggie. It's a 30,000 foot overview.
Sure.
What's coming is something you basically touched on. Every time there's been a major technological advance, whether it's fire, electricity, the steam engine, the printing press, it has shifted society in such a way that there were people who lost and there were people who gained. And what we want to start anticipating is, how can we be on the gaining side of this? if you have a job where you're just doing rote work and AI can replace you, retool yourself.
Right. That's right.
Learn how to do things that make you valuable in the marketplace. And it's going to be scary for many, many people.
Yes.
But it's also going to be incredibly exciting and the biggest adventure. I've lived through the internet, Silicon Valley internet bust, global housing bust, everything. And now this one is going to shift us into something that we, in our little brains, as we look at like linear thinking, whereas we've gone from CPU to GPU, we're looking at a total graphical shift. Our brains are not wired that way. We're wired linearly, sequentially, XOXO, yes, no, yes, no. So we're going to have to learn how to navigate that from a deep inner psychological neuroscience thing. And it's so exciting. And it's a pioneer kind of thing.
Right.
I'm just happy to be here.
It's very Ponce de Leon, Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, isn't it? This sought after a new land and not as exact as business, but they sought after a new world and they landed. From those expressions, Dr. Good, and we won't keep you long. Do you think we're heading into this renaissance of deep creativity? Do you think that as a consequence, if you will, of us being so new yet so far into the frontier of innovation, we're seeing frontier labs erect around the world. We're seeing platforms and crews and teams that never thought that they would have to commandeer a startup, become founders, become entrepreneurs, and because the old way of things of just easily having a job and keeping that job for years, those days in some ways are being mitigated or passed and moved on. Now we're heading, it seems to be in this era of creativity. Is that deep well of reservation and more that we're pulling from to build what's next?
Two things. The people who are willing to deep dive into that well are going to be the survivalist and who will lead our nation and the world into a much bigger, more wonderful place, depending on your point of view.
Sure.
The people who are left behind, there might be a short period of what I call this dystopian reversal. People will be dissatisfied. We might have more riots. We might have more things. People mention the term the fallout from, and if you're a gamer, you've been through fallout.
Sure.
And following what happened when somebody created it. But we have to be ready. We have to be ready in all fronts. Psychologically, creatively. To me, I'm so excited to be able to know that I can speak things into existence. And my next talk will be God, you, and AI, because that's what happened. Let there be light. And here we go. That we're at the point where we're saying, let there be light.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Good. And just two more things, just real brief, and then we'll move forward to our next set of speakers that we have. When we talk about this ability of creativity to innovate, to hyperscale, to vibe code, if you will, and we've never had these almost feeling alien foreign tools at our disposal, and to be able to make, to be able to build, where a woman sitting at her home for the course of an evening can make a platform that would have took at times tens of thousands of dollars, several different people, several different iterative scales, and within the course of an evening, perhaps over supper, can create a platform, deploy it to the world, and to move that towards adoption, traction, scalability, and so forth and so on. And that's just tonight, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that tomorrow when we're assisted by physical AI, these machines, and even more? And we're not just interacting with them on our screens, but we're interacting with them over supper.
Oh, your point is so well taken. It's wonderful you brought that one up, because literally I can create a website tonight in an hour that would have taken $100,000 in 6 months of reiterations to create. Sure. I can do that now.
Right.
When we have robots in our home, that are more humanoid, we have robots already. When we have robots in our home that we can interact with, I talk to Alexa all the time, just in fun. So we might have a robot around doing things, and it might actually spur us to think more creatively because it's going to ask us questions, and it's always going to be curious, and it's going to spur us to go like, okay, what can I do next? What's the next step? Yes, we're going to Mars. I'm not going to Mars. I doubt if you're going to Mars, but there are people going to Mars. Oh, it's opened up a mindset, and here's where we all live. It's opened up a mindset that we can be unstoppable, because the way the brain is wired with all the neurons, we still don't have any AI that can actually match what your brain or my brain can actually do yet.
Sure. You know, we talk about the human brain. I remember talking years ago about this and the human brain study that they had in Europe, a 10-year plus study on the computational adjustment and render of the human brain compared to the fastest supercomputer in the world. And it wasn't even close in comparison that this supercomputer could do many things, but not even comparing to the brain. The brain is such a powerful, to me, the most powerful processor in the world, if you will. And so we think about this and the immensity of it, and it seems that we're so advanced today. But sometimes, Dr. Good, I get the feeling, the real sense as a technologist, that what we feel is so advanced, it's in many ways remedial from that which is to come. And when you talk about multiplanetary destination, we talk about the Kirchhoff scale, we talk about the Dyson sphere, we talk about the age of scale of technology along with energy and compute. It seems to me that we're breaking into a new order successive step towards a higher plateau of innovation that really none of us on a morpho scale have been in, that we've seen, and in many ways, even in great literary works, has not been conveyed yet. Can you imagine this world, Dr. Good? And do you feel like we're at that doorstep?
We're at the doorstep, but we're at the first rung of the little doorstep. There's a lot of little steps to go before we can open the door. But the doorstep right now is our NVIDIA chip that was beta tested is now ready to be released, and it's 129 times powerful than the original one. We're going to have to use electricity, and that's going to become in the form of nuclear energy in small little nuclear powered plants that will power a whole hyperscaler standalone unit.
That's right.
So once we get hyperscalers up and running, see, China has taken the wall and made it really big in terms of DeepSeek. It won't share their algorithms with us. So we're actually in a zero-sum race right now. This world, that world. And if we don't meet the needs of what we really need to do to be able to go and open that door, someone else is going to open it for us and then dictate what our world's going to look like. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and I would say this, if you look at China, they've been so advanced for years. We here in Silicon Valley, we're efficient in tech speed. China's also efficient in tech speed, but they're more efficient in energy speed. We're doing our best to be able to catch up, if you will, to this energy grid when it comes to energy speed. And in so doing, when it comes to energy speed, I look at it like this briefly, Dr. Good, and welcome back, Russell. I look at this as that if China, because they just deployed the greatest diffusion adversarial network that we've ever seen with Seedance, no doubt, it is the best video render for AI generative state model we've ever seen. And so we already see China beginning to scale in this global AI arms race, if you will. If the United States gets up to energy speed, it can compete. If it doesn't get up to energy speed and China gets up to better tech speed with these GPUs, these graphic processing, these interfaces, if you will, the GUI, and thinking about the GPU, not just CPU and TPUs and SoC system on chips. But if we see that China can catch up to both states, from everything that we're seeing right now with this cadence, China wins. And they will set the tone for the way of hyperscale and for empirical observation of technological scale. And from this vantage point, I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing when it comes to global alignment. In fact, I don't consider it a good thing based on how they got there with the use of the way that they've taken advantage of data. Our hands aren't clean here in the US, but I think globally we need to be more mindful and having more leaders such as yourself, such as what Russell's doing, and more to be able to move forward when it comes to moving safely and fast at the same time with the great consideration of trust. Dr. Good, do you have any closing words on this?
Yes, quick closing words. Look at the way China treats their people and look at the way we treat our people. Two different universes. Until that group of people are freed and have absolute freedom, our world won't be able to join together. So that is a huge, huge, it's almost too big for a word. What word can we use, Chris, for that?
There is a dichotomy difference in, as much as we appreciate many people that are even part of the GatherVerse community in China, there is a difference in the places that we live with the differences of liberty and freedom, even as innovators, as entrepreneurs in this so free enterprise, if you will, to be able to build that we in the way without infringing too deep as other deep state, if you will, geocentric locations will. And we have to be mindful of that. And that sure can leave a lot of room for a lot of debate with a lot of people. And perhaps on perhaps on a different day, we'll have that dance with everybody.
We will have that because it's very important. And thank you so much for being the tip of the spear in gathering this and helping other people get all this information. And I know sometimes people are going like, what are they talking about? But it has to be said. Thank you, Russell.